The coffee has gone cold. I know before I take the sip, but I take it anyway. That is a habit of mine, testing things I already know the answer to. It is almost 1 in the morning, and I am parked on a side street off Northern Boulevard, engine idling, watching a light flicker in the window of a closed nail salon. Queens does not sleep. It just gets quieter. Quieter is not the same thing. I am 68 years old. Semi-retired is what I tell people. What I mean is I tried to stop, and I could not. My daughter thinks I drive because I need the money. I let her think that. It is easier. The truth is, I tried staying home for 3 months after I handed in my full-time plates. I watched television. I ate sandwiches, standing over the kitchen sink. I walked to the corner and back. By the end of the first week, I understood why some animals pace in cages. It is not about the space. It is about needing to be in motion. Some men fish. Some men take up golf. I drive through Queens at 1 in the morning with gas station coffee and an old photograph in my left jacket pocket. The photograph is of my wife, Marion. She has been gone 9 years. The pocket has a small tear in the lining, and I never fixed it. I am not sure why. Some things you leave the way they are not because you forgot, but because fixing them feels like saying it is over. I remember most of my passengers the way you remember weather, a general impression, hot summer, bad storm, but some of them stay specific. Some of them leave a mark you do not notice until later when you reach for something and find it is not there anymore. Walter Miller was one of those. I picked him up on a Tuesday night, maybe 12 years ago now. He was standing outside a laundromat on Junction Boulevard. The place was closed. The lights were off inside. He was not waiting for laundry. He was just standing there in a tired brown coat, the kind of coat that used to be good and then got worn past the point of good. He was holding a plastic grocery bag in both hands. The bag hung heavy at his sides. He asked me to take him to a diner in Woodside. I said, sure. I always say sure. He got in the back and set the bag between his feet carefully. Not the way you set down groceries, the way you set down something you have been carrying for a long time and are not sure you should put down at all. I heard the sound it made when it settled, a low shifting weight, dense and metallic. I pulled out and did not say anything. I never push. At a red light on Roosevelt Avenue, he leaned forward and asked what the fare would come to. I gave him a number. He nodded slowly, the way people nod when they are not really listening, but need a moment to think. He reached into his coat pocket and counted out bills. Exact change. He handed it across the seat divider before we had gone another block. People who pay up front are usually one of two things, in a hurry or afraid of something at the other end. Walter did not look like a man in a hurry. I took the money and we kept moving. I did not ask about the bag. That is a rule I have kept my whole career. You do not ask about what people are carrying. You wait. If it matters, they will tell you. If they do not tell you, it still matters, but it is not yours to know. He did not say anything for a while, just sat there with the bag between his feet, looking out the window. The streets were wet from earlier rain. The lights ran long and yellow on the asphalt. Then he started talking. Small things. Weather first. People use weather as a door. They open it just a crack to see if it is safe to come in further. He said October used to arrive differently. Cold that came in honest, he said, not sneaking up on you. I said I remembered that. I meant it. Then he moved on to diners. He knew his diners. He talked about a place in Astoria that used to have a counter with those old round stools bolted to the floor. He talked about coffee, how it used to taste like something a person made rather than something a machine produced. How the cups were heavier, how the saucers meant something. I was half amused and half curious. He was not a foolish man. He was a man filling time deliberately. There is a difference between a man who talks too much and a man who talks just enough to keep from having to think about where he is going. Walter was the second kind. I have thought about why people do that in cabs, not the ones who are friendly, the ones who are afraid. Silence is honest. It does not offer anything to hide behind. Some people cannot stand that. They will fill every quiet moment with words the way you fill a crack in a wall, not to fix it, just to stop seeing it. I understood that personally by then. Marion had been gone maybe 3 years at that point. 3 years is long enough that people stop checking on you. Long enough that the casseroles stop arriving and the phone calls space out and you are expected to have found your footing. I had not found my footing. I had found the cab again. I drove longer shifts. I kept the radio on even when there was nothing worth hearing. I took passengers at 2 and 3 in the morning because an empty apartment at that hour is a specific kind of quiet that I do not have a word for. Not peaceful, not lonely exactly. Something that sits in your chest like a stone you swallowed and cannot pass. So when Walter talked about coffee and October weather and diner stools, I did not find it strange. I found it recognizable. A man managing the distance between himself and something he was not ready to say yet. We were about 6 blocks from the diner when he went quiet. Not a pause, a real quiet. The kind that means a gear has shifted somewhere inside. He said he was meeting someone. I said that was good. He did not say who. Not right away. He looked out the window for another block and a half. Then he said it was his son, said they had not spoken in some time. I did not ask how long. That is another rule. You do not make people say the number out loud if you can help it. Numbers make things real in a way that is hard to take back. He picked up the grocery bag from between his feet and held it on his lap. Just held it there with both hands. He said it was something he had been keeping at home for years. Said he could not look at it anymore but could not throw it out either, so tonight he was bringing it with him. He did not explain what was inside. He did not explain what bringing it meant. He just held the bag and looked at it the way you look at something that belongs to a version of your life you are not sure you are allowed to go back to. I did not ask. I had driven enough people in this city to know that some objects carry more than their weight. A coat someone wore to a funeral. A book nobody has opened in a decade. A bag of coins that used to sit on a kitchen counter between a man and his son. I did not know that last part from what he said. I knew it from the way he held the bag, the particular tenderness of it, the way his hands did not grip but cradled. You do not hold something like that unless it was once something good. I pulled up outside the diner, green awning, light spilling warm and yellow onto the wet sidewalk. The kind of place that has been there long enough to stop trying to look like anything other than what it is. Walter sat for a moment before getting out. He straightened his coat, checked the buttons. It was an unconscious thing, the way people tidy themselves before something that matters. Then he picked up the bag carefully, opened the door, and stepped out onto the curb. He paused with his hand still on the doorframe. He asked if I could wait. "Just a few minutes," he said, "in case things went quick." He did not finish the thought. He did not need to. I said I would stay a few minutes. He nodded without looking at me and walked to the diner entrance and went inside. I cut the meter, left the engine running. I thought about my daughter then. Claire. We speak, but not the way we used to. There is a politeness between us now that was not there before. Politeness between people who used to be close is one of the saddest things I know. It has weight. It takes effort. Real distance would almost be easier. At least, distance is honest about what it is. I used to think men like Walter were weak. Men who let years go by. Men who let silence calcify into a wall and then forgot they were the ones who started building it. I had opinions like that when I was younger. Opinions that cost me nothing to hold, because I had not yet been on the other side of them. Now, I am 68, and I understand something I did not before. Some men do not apologize because they are proud. That is the simple version. The true version is harder. Some men do not apologize because they are terrified, not of being rejected exactly, of something worse. Of saying the words, meaning them completely, and watching the other person receive them and feeling nothing change. Discovering that the damage is past the point of words. That is a specific fear. I know it. I have stood at the edge of it with Claire more than once and found a reason to step back. Walter did not step back. He got out of the cab with whatever he was carrying and walked into a diner to sit across from years of silence. Whatever else you could say about the man, he got out of the cab. Through the diner window, I could see shapes. The warm light inside made everything soft and indistinct from where I sat. I could make out Walter in a booth near the front. The shape of him, head down, hands around a cup probably. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The door opened twice. A woman in a hurry, then an older man alone. Neither of them went to Walter's booth. At 12 or 13 minutes, a younger man came in. Dark jacket. He stood near the entrance long enough to tell he was not sure he wanted to be there. I could not see his face clearly from the street. Just the shape of his hesitation, the way his weight shifted between one foot and the other before he moved. Then he moved. He walked toward Walter's booth. I could not see what passed between them. The glass, the distance, the angle of the light. I saw two forms, one seated, one standing. Then the second one sat down. No embrace from what I could tell, no sudden movement. Just two people in a booth, close enough to talk. I sat there another few minutes, not for any good reason. The meter was off. I had nowhere to be. I just sat there the way you sometimes sit somewhere without deciding to. Then I put the car in drive. That is the job. You get one chapter of someone's life, never the whole book. You drive someone to the edge of something important, and then the city pulls you forward, and someone else needs to be somewhere, and the story continues without you in it. I made my peace with that a long time ago. Most nights, I believe it, I drove back toward Northern Boulevard. The radio stayed off. I did not turn it on. I thought about the bag, about the way he held it on his lap, about whatever was inside that he had kept for years, because throwing it out would have meant deciding something he was not ready to decide. I thought about Walter straightening his coat before he went inside. I thought about my daughter. The city moved around me the way it always does at night, indifferent and constant and oddly comforting. Like being on a river. You are not in control of the current. You just try to keep the bow pointed forward. The coffee on the dashboard has gone completely cold now. I already knew that before I reached for it. Some habits die hard. Some habits are the only way you know you are still here. I take the sip anyway. Sometimes forgiveness does not look like crying or hugging. Sometimes it just looks like somebody not walking out.